Welcome into another episode of the 814 Sports Report. Logan Lepiscopo joined by John Lydic. We're filming this on Thursday. Where's Chris Soule? He's at the Sabres game, which has been electric to start so far.
5 goals and about 10 minutes of game time. So an electric game, but an electric night also in another sport around North America.
Yeah, very exciting time, especially around our region with 3 teams. The NFL schedule release with the Bills, Steelers, and the Browns. John, we've got a list of just general games that we're keeping our eyes out for. We're going to quickly fire them back, say why here. And John, this is also a mix with the Sports Blitz. So if you're seeing this, head over to YouTube. You'll be able to find any previous 814 Sports Reports podcast episodes. Go ahead and kick us off with a game you're looking forward to.
I think one that I'm intrigued. I'll go all the way to Week 17.
There we go.
And
that's the
that
first
is
one I got on my list, too.
Houston and Green Bay. I hope
Okay.
that's not the same.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Yeah, Houston and Green Bay. Assuming everybody stays healthy or most healthy, I think Houston is just going to be a dynamic team. All they have to do is get average to maybe a slightly above from C.J. Stroud. I really like that team. And is this the year we finally see Jordan Love put it together with the receivers? He gets Tucker Kraft back. That was a big blow to that offense a year ago.
That was a huge blow.
So I'm really excited to watch that kind of game. An offense meeting one of the elite defenses.
Yeah, and even Green Bay's defense could be up there with Micah Parsons coming back from injury. My Week 17 I have is one that I think just early looks could be for the division. That's a Thursday night football between the Bengals and the Ravens. I know Steelers fans aren't going to be happy about me saying that could be for the division, but I think similar to your point, if people can stay healthy and we actually get Joe Burrow versus Lamar Jackson in Week 17, I think that could be a very exciting one to watch and could just be big overall for the AFC North because, more than one team in that division is going to get in the postseason.
I think also intriguing, too. I'll go from the end of the season to the start of it.
Let's go.
And that's the one that goes down under. And that is you're getting Kyle Shanahan versus Sean McVay, 49ers and Rams to start things off on that Thursday in Australia. What a game, and one that is pivotal. We know how hard it can be for some teams.
Yeah.
Week 1, things can go chaotic. We see teams that have no business and will not be near the postseason win in Week 1, and teams falter. So how will things work out? It looks like maybe a little bit more younger team and changeover in San Francisco, so I would tend to lean maybe a little bit more towards the Rams. But boy, is that going to be a fantastic game over in Australia.
They set up the people in Australia right for the first game out
Certainly.
there. Mine, let's just go back to Week 1 as well. Why not? We're going to go to Sunday Night Football, Giants-Cowboys.
Yeah.
First edition of Hardball with the Giants, divisional matchup. Should be exciting to see if the Giants are for real and if Dallas can put everything together. One last one here before we go, John.
I'll go back to the Green Bay and another team that I've already mentioned, Green Bay and the Rams, and that is on Thanksgiving Eve, I believe. To
New
kick
holiday.
off that big weekend. Yeah, new holiday. That's going to be a good one there. Again, 2 teams that will probably be vying, maybe top of the NFC at that point. Should be a good one.
I'll give one last one. Week 16, Rams and Seahawks. Christmas should be exciting. Could be another one that's up for the division.
Yeah, that'll be a thriller. I'll be excited to see. Is that one at the Rams or at Seattle?
That one is at Seattle.
Yeah, we know how electric it was up there in the Great American Northwest. So we'll see if by that time you're seeing snowflakes or rainfall, because it's going to be a good one.
All right, we're going to be right back here, Sunday Sports Blitz. We're going to start with Cleveland Browns. Why not? Show them some love off the top. We'll be right back. Talking Cleveland Browns football. We looked earlier on our Facebook. We did a live as soon as the schedules came through. We got it pulled up on our mobile phones just to be able to break it down. The first few weeks, John, they look pretty good. They start out in Florida with a Jacksonville, Tampa Bay, keeping the NFC South with the Panthers, and then Week 4, they're in home against Pittsburgh Thursday night.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because the big thing that you're combating there early on is the heat down there in Florida.
Yeah.
Again, how conditioned are you? Again, you're coming off something up here, but it is a much different. That humidity down there in Florida can be a problem. So it'll be interesting if they can maybe get a split there. Again, what kind of Jacksonville team? We talked about it, I think, immediately when the schedule was released. Are they going to be missing the likes of the commander in the middle of that defense, Devin Lloyd, departs and switches teams? So I'll be intrigued to see how that group looks. And you mentioned a great point about the offensive side of the ball for Jacksonville that maybe the Cleveland Browns could capitalize on.
Yeah, not having a true rushing attack. They lost. Apparently, it's Travis Achan instead of Travis Etienne. Apparently, he made that a correction and let the New Orleans media know that. So, not referring to the Miami running back that everyone's familiar with. Travis Achan Jr. is now in New Orleans, and Chris Rodriguez or Baishal Tutin, or they have no running back. That's my point I'm trying to get to is if Cleveland can just completely take that out and require Trevor Lawrence to beat them, that could be an easy one they pick up. And you mentioned Thursday night in Cleveland against Pittsburgh. Seems like for whatever reason that stadium and on a Thursday night gives the Steelers problems.
It does. Now this time there won't be snowfalls to contend with.
Oh, well, that'll be
but
good.
When you look at Cleveland plays well at home, and again, on the short weeks, the division games are always tough, right? You know each other all too well, but I'll be intrigued. It usually comes down to a team either kicking a field goal or it comes down to a defensive stop near the goal line for another team needing a touchdown. But again, we talked about it. If they can get out of there 2-2, they've got the Jets coming in before they welcome the Ravens and then the Titans. Could we be talking about a 4-3 Cleveland Browns team after 7 weeks of play? I mean, I don't know that it's out of the realm
Definitely
of possibilities.
Not. Yeah, I wouldn't say so. And, competent quarterback play. That's all you ask for. I don't care if it's Deshaun Watson, Shador Sanders, John Lydic, whoever's under center for Cleveland.
That'd be highly concerning.
just play.
I may be more of a question mark than Taylor Green for many of the Browns faithful if I was under center.
There you go. But if you just get some average play behind that really good defense, I think 4-3 is definitely possible. Maybe even heading into Pittsburgh for Week 8, maybe 5 wins. That might be too bullish. Browns fans might say that's crazy talk.
It depends on which Steelers quarterback, and we'll get into that later on
yes,
here.
We will.
It'll be intriguing. I think we look at it. We know they didn't finish well last year, so they get a somewhat, however you want to call it. I don't think there's easy games in the NFL. But they have a favorable schedule. They've got the Raiders on there. The Saints team is a one that we talked about immediately after the schedule was released. They're either going to surprise a lot of teams and be somewhat like a New England a year ago, or they're going to be a team that it never connects if Tyler Shuck is not the guy at quarterback position. And down the stretch in the final 6 weeks, they have a Week 11 bye due to the Browns. You got Bengals, Falcons, Giants, Ravens, Colts, Bengals. You could be in a contention, a competitive nature if you handle your business with some of those early slate of games. We don't know what the Giants will be. Obviously, John Harbaugh knows the division, but 3 division games in the final 6 weeks will be quite a challenge, especially with 2 in your own state. And hopefully, maybe we see a full season at Joe Burrow at this point.
Yeah, at this point, that's what Bengals fans are hoping for. The rest of the AFC North is hoping that something goes wrong and Joe Burrow's not on the field. But then you got old man Joe Flacco behind him who is going to throw the ball against you 40, 50 times a game in order to beat you. So I think Cleveland, we both said probably a 7-win team. And, if you get good quarterback play, maybe you're pushing around that 500 mark. I don't know if 9 wins is going to be enough to earn a wild card in the AFC.
I don't
but
think the AFC, that's going to be a tough. You would have to have things go maybe even worse than we saw a year ago with the likes of a Lamar Jackson going down, Joe Burrow missing significant time, Patrick Mahomes missed the last handful of games. Maybe the Steelers not having Aaron Rodgers and not having a young quarterback step up. I think that'd be hard. But again, you get to Week 11, those first 10 weeks. 6-5 is not out of the realm of possibility.
No, definitely not.
And if you're able to steal a game somewhere, if we're talking about a 7-4 Browns team, again, we talked about those last 6 weeks are going to be a challenge. You got the Raiders coming out of the bye. That game is at home, so they're coming from the West Coast.
Yeah.
Competitive. They're in the race.
Yeah.
Is what you hope for with a Browns fan, and that means that things maybe went pretty well at the quarterback position, regardless of who Todd Monken lands on.
Yeah, we talked about just the upgrades offensively. You got 2 wide receivers that, arguably both first-round talents. Boston fell into the second round. You got an offensive lineman in Spencer Fano who can play anywhere for them. And then Harold Fannin Jr. is there. Jerry Jeudy is still there. It could be a good offense. They could be a team that surprises a lot of people. The quarterback position is just...
It's really the one remarkable question you have on this roster because, as we talked about, the defense. You've got Mason Graham. You've got a Myles Garrett.
Yep.
You go to Carson Schlesinger.
Denzel Ward.
You've got Denzel Ward. And then it'll be interesting to see how this defense works with Emmanuel McNeil-Warren that can fly.
I'm excited.
He's a guy that loves to get physical. Paired with a Grant Delpit, who's another guy that can get forced turnovers. And then what does Tyson Campbell look like in his first full off season?
Yeah.
He comes back, and what can he look like in a Browns uniform? I think this is going to be a tremendous team to watch. Can the pieces just come together? That's the question.
It seems like they've always got some pieces, just can't put the full puzzle together. We're going to head to their AFC North rival, the Pittsburgh Steelers, break down their schedule and what could be the quarterback situation. Will Rodgers be there? What happens if there's two rookies in the mix? We'll be right back here on the Sunday Sports Blitz and 814 Sports Report. Talking to Pittsburgh Steelers, the big topic has been, is Aaron Rodgers coming back? Will it be Will Howard, Drew Aller? Schedule comes out in two really tough 5-week stretches that they will have, John.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at this is a Pittsburgh Steelers team, and I think we talked about it 2 years ago when they had that tough stretch that was going to be around Christmas where they had to go some semblance of, I think, Philly, Kansas City, Baltimore on short weeks. They're going to have a tough back end. So really, they have got to make their hay in the front portion of this schedule. They started off at home against an Atlanta Falcons team that I don't know. Maybe the roster around it is going to be good, but just like we talked about in the last segment with the quarterback position, if you're putting a lot of money and stake into Tua Tagovailoa or Michael Penix Jr., boy, a lot of question marks for Kevin Stefanski as he begins his tenure in Atlanta. And then you got to go to the New England Patriots. That'll be their home opener. Bengals, Browns, and we talked about in the last segment already about the Browns, but I'll be intrigued to see. This Pittsburgh team has largely avoided Joe Burrow much of the last 2 seasons. This could be the year that they finally have to deal with him early on and maybe later on as well. But they've at least got to come out of the first 5 weeks. Colts would be in week 5. I think 3-2. But really, you're looking for a 4-1 start if you're this Pittsburgh team, assuming it is Aaron Rodgers, and I think it will be.
Yeah, I as it gets later and later, I just feel that more certain feeling that it will eventually be pen to paper Aaron Rodgers, a Pittsburgh Steeler. But just looking at that schedule, it's daunting. Those first 5 weeks, like, you have to come out of that with 4 wins. I truly think you have to. And if you want to know what that is, you go to Tampa, you go out to France for New Orleans, have to come back for the Browns, finally able to get your bye week, and then it's Cincy, Philly, Denver, Houston, Jacksonville. You could even throw Baltimore in the mix there. Like, that is a really, really hard stretch.
Yeah, I mean, you get a little soft spot there in weeks 16 and 17, Panthers and Titans, and then you finish with the Ravens, which, we saw it last year. It's likely could be a either division deciding game, or it's going to be a playoff deciding game between these two teams. They're going to be ushering in rookie head coaches. I think it's going to be interesting. Somebody that's going to earn their pay, and you hear about it, the sports science side of things. Not only that, but the itinerary planners and the travel logistics for this team.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it with Buffalo, too, in terms of their West Coast trip. You mentioned it when we first looked at this schedule. I think this is going to have to be they're going to go to Tampa, and they're not going to be home for a while because they're going to have to probably go straight from Tampa out to France, because if not, trying to get adjusted to that is going to be really hard for this team.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like at that point in the season, an international game, you're thinking, okay, after that travel, give them a bye week, give them time to explore the city, do whatever they need to do, and that just wasn't the case. Like, the quick draw of, hop on the plane, get ready for Cleveland. I don't know what the exact time difference is from France to here, if it's just like a classic London game, whatever the case may be. But yeah, the travel, not fun during those 3 weeks. Like, I think you're hoping to win 2 of those just because you're probably going to be really tired from game and travel.
Well, just for the pure fact, you're talking about too, this is they're starting to turn the roster over to younger players, but still some of the key pieces of it are veteran-esque players.
Yeah.
Yes, it's only the first third of the schedule, but bodies start to wear down maybe a little bit quicker. The recovery takes a little bit longer, and when you're traveling to a Tampa, maybe not dealing with the extreme heats that a Browns team is going to see in the opening couple of weeks, and then you go to France, and again, you get to those international games. There's so much in terms of, and again, it's going to be the New Orleans Saints too, that is a very, very young team with Kellen Moore, but you got to deal with the distractions of media and different obligations that you have over there, so that's always a question mark. But yeah, boy, I mean, again, the Steelers with a bye week that comes a little later. Week 9, not a bad spot to have it. You'd like to have it maybe a little bit later. The Steelers tend to seem to have an earlier bye. But I mean, as we take a look here, that 6-week stretch, 5-week stretch, Bengals, Eagles, Broncos, Texans, Jaguars, Ravens, that is going to be a tough one.
Yeah, and that's like ones that you're gonna really need, because sandwiched between Cincinnati and Baltimore is just a ton of good AFC teams that could come down to maybe a tiebreaker if you end up having a same division record as a Bengals or Ravens for a playoff spot like that.
Or even Jaguars.
Yeah. There's just a lot of components there, and I asked you earlier, I'll ask you again, just what do you think the difference would be for this team win total wise, Aaron Rodgers versus Rudolph Aller Howard combo?
Well, I think they could get off to a good enough start where you could scheme things up because of the veteran play caller that Mike McCarthy is, to get around it if it is not Aaron Rodgers. But I think this is where you would need the veteran leadership and the expertise of Aaron Rodgers to navigate this schedule, know when to get those checkdowns, preserve the body. And then also you're talking about a Sunday Night Football in Week 10, Eagles. Then you've got a Black Friday short week game, luckily at home against the Broncos, both those previous games on the road. And then you got the Texans coming into that rematch on Sunday Night Football. So if you've got somewhat primetime games and short weeks mixed in there, boy, is it going to be tough.
Yeah, it's going to be real tough sledding for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think
you're talking 3-win, though, difference between a Rodgers and a young quarterback or Mason Rudolph.
All right. Well, I also misspoke at the top is the Buffalo Bills that have 2 tough 5-game stretches.
Steelers have a tough stretch.
They do have one tough stretch, but not as tough sledding as Buffalo is going to have.
AFC East is going to have a gauntlet to go through for all 4 teams.
So we've hit the Browns, the Steelers. We're going to be right back here on the Sunday Sports Blitz talking about the Buffalo Bills. All right, the Buffalo Bills kick off the season in Houston, and then the home opener in the new stadium. Short week, Thursday Night Football against the Detroit Lions. Tough defensive test to start, and probably a high-scoring affair in the second week.
It's interesting, man. Talk about what have the Buffalo Bills done to the schedule makers the last couple of years. You had to start with the Ravens a year ago, and you had to come back at Highmark Stadium. It was a thriller for Bills fans to watch on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah.
But now you've got to do it again, heading down to the Texans. Luckily, a 1 o'clock game.
Yeah.
But the questions are going to be at a couple of those positions. We know the tackles are pretty good for the Buffalo Bills, but you've got a new left guard there with David Edwards moving on to New Orleans. And we'll see how that's a game where you're going to have to try and find a way to get James Cook going early.
Yeah.
Because, boy, the guys like Will Anderson, they're going to pin the ears back and come after Josh Allen.
Yeah. And then you don't have a true receiver. Like, you got DJ Moore in, but Derek Stingley Jr. is going to be covering him. And then you got Kamari Lassiter, Jalen Petrie. Like, the list goes on and on. They added Reed Blankenship to the secondary as well. Like, this Texans defense is insane. Like, on paper, I know I don't even have to try to convince you, the best defense in the NFL.
Yeah, and they got Caden McDonald in the middle to add to that defense. I mean, again, health is going to be everything, and obviously you would hope that in week 1 you're not going to see a massive amount of injuries or in the preseason. But, I mean, we talked about how good the Browns defense is going to be. It might be hard to say a generational year.
Yeah.
That's what I think we could see out of Houston. But if anybody can handle it, it's arguably the best quarterback in the league, and that is Josh Allen. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
The question will be, how much does Josh Allen, play in the preseason? Because, again, you've got Skylar Bell coming in. You're going to have to try and get something going with Keon Coleman and then DJ Moore. You got maybe 2 out of your 3 top options. Trying to get chemistry, that's going to be hard. You're going to rely a lot on the run game, but if that gets thwarted early, the Texans is going to be tough. By far, I think this is one of the toughest schedules in the league.
First 5 weeks is just brutal, absolutely brutal. You go from home against Detroit. You're thankful that the Chargers are coming out east to play you the next week. Then you get to have New England there at home as well. So you get a nice 3 games at home, but then you got to travel out to LA. And those 3 games at home are not just going to be cakewalks. Those are all 3 teams that are playoff contenders.
Well, and think about it too, right? You think of just the physical nature of the NFL, but you're talking about a Dan Campbell team, a Jim Harbaugh team that loves to control the defensive lines, and a Mike Vrabel team that preached last year violence.
Yeah.
In terms of and it's a division game, so you know it's always going to be physical.
Yep.
I mean, that's going to be hard. Then you got to go play a finesse team out on the West Coast. That's going to be a tough ask. I mean, if you're the Bills coming out of that 3-2, I mean 4-1, you're jumping over the moon.
Oh yeah.
But 3-2, if you get out of there, you have well positioned yourself despite the second half of the schedule you're talking. I think the interesting dynamic we talked here is they go to that Monday Night Football game in week number 5 against the Rams. Because they're going to have to face the Raiders, that's a question mark of do they stay on the West Coast?
Yeah.
Because travel back and forth on a short week in between 2, I would imagine they're going to stay out west there and try and find some university to practice at or some facility because, again, you'll be in the midst of the college football season.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be tough for anybody to want to offer Josh Allen and the Bills to come and practice at their facilities. But you never know. You get a nice bye week after that, and then you have after the Raiders in week 6, you get a bye, and then Baltimore, Minnesota, Jets, Dolphins, and then we got that next 5-game stretch of Chiefs in Buffalo Thursday night, New England again for the second time, at Green Bay, home against Chicago, and at Denver.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about short week with the Kansas City Chiefs, 8:20 game, luckily at home.
Yeah.
Patriots, again, primetime game in the mid-afternoon on CBS, 4:25. Packers then on that Sunday Night Football game we talked about in Week 14. Bears on a Saturday, and then you've got a short week Christmas on a Friday. I mean, these aren't just tough games on a normal week.
Yeah.
We're talking about tough opponents, some of those in the back half coming on short weeks where these players, you're not going to be able to practice much, and you're going to have to be dealing with a lot of soreness and injuries.
We're expecting about 7 wins for the Browns, about 9 or 10 for the Steelers, 10 or 11 for Buffalo.
I would think so. I mean, you would not be ashamed if you are the Buffalo Bills, and I think we'll dive in a little bit deeper just how, off the cuff we're going to think about where these teams could finish in the division. I think you would be very happy, and you would be a well-earned 11-6 mark if that's where you get by the end of the season. Again, you've got to capitalize. They had a slip up against Miami last year. You have got to go 4-0 against the Jets in Miami this year.
Absolutely.
Because you can't just have that. That's one thing I want to look at here. Okay, you get the Dolphins late. That's huge. Again, we know Buffalo, when they made those early trips to Miami, that's where they've struggled. The fact that they get them in Week 17 could play a big factor, especially coming off a Christmas Day game against the Broncos. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, I think if you get to 11 wins, you are ecstatic for Buffalo because the Patriots have a similar schedule that they're going to be facing. So that 11 wins could probably win you the division, second or third seed in the AFC.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's it for the Sunday Sports Blitz. If you want to hear a little bit more about where we think these teams can fall in the division, make sure you head over to YouTube, the 814 Sports Report. Once again, Logan Lepiscopo, John Lydic, here with you for the Sunday Sports Blitz. All right, not done here yet on the 814 Sports Report. John, you mentioned predictions, where we could see these teams finish standings-wise. We gave about a win total. Let's head to you first. Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, where do they end up in their respective divisions?
I think I'm a little higher, and I think I was a year ago. I'm going to start with Cleveland because that's where we started. I think I'm a little higher, and again, I don't know the Cinderella story, but company who I'm going to talk about here, but Deshaun Watson, if the reps truly are what they are, and he now has some weapons, I don't know that he had the best of circumstances maybe when he first got to Cleveland, and the outside noise was what it was. But I think 7 or 8 wins for this Browns team. Now, again, I'm sure there may be people in Cleveland, if our friend Andy Howe is listening, he may think I'm nuts right now, but 7 to 8 wins, and just they're competitive and they build the foundation for if they're going to put a quarterback in in the draft in 27. I think that team could do very well. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think despite the change of head coach, I think it's going to be a similar. If it's Aaron Rodgers, which is what the assumption I'm operating under, I think it's going to be 9-10 wins. And I think, though, I think they could be at the third team.
I was going to say that looked like the gears were turning for a
to
wild
me,
card.
It is Cincinnati. I know their defense still has some question marks, Shamar Stewart and but I really like Cincinnati. I think Joe Burrow is going to be a man on a mission this year. I think he's going to have trained well. He knows what he has, and he knows what he's out to prove for this franchise. And I think the Buffalo Bills regain the AFC East. I think the Patriots, you hear a lot about it. I know one guy that likes to talk about it, the loud off seasons. I think the Patriots certainly, it's well documented how much has gone on there in Foxborough with the head coach. I think they're bound for a big regression. I think they could go from a 14-win team down to 8 or 9 wins. And I think it's going to be Buffalo again. I think 10 or 11 wins gets it done. I think they'll be, I'm going to say the third
seed.
Houston 1. I'm going to go Denver 2, Buffalo 3, and then despite Joe Burrow, I think Cincy will be the fourth just because of how competitive the North is.
Yeah, I think I'm just in a very similar boat with you. I think the AFC North, I think Cincinnati's done enough defensively to give Joe Burrow some support where he doesn't have to score 30-plus points a game and win. Browns still, unfortunately, will finish in the basement of the division. I think 7-8 wins, though. Like, being 7-8 wins in the bottom of the AFC North, you're not unhappy with that. Browns fans actually are probably excited about that, just being what recency has been. Pittsburgh, I think that 9-10 win mark, maybe Rodgers pushes you 10 to the 11. I could see them sneaking in as that 7th seed in the wild card again. And then for the Buffalo Bills, I honestly don't know. Like, that's two stretches we talked about.
How much does the offense take the step forward? That's the question mark for them, right? As a team that wants to get into the playoffs. For Pittsburgh, it's do we see the veteran regression? Yeah. Cam Hayward was all pro last year. Does he have that left in him? TJ Watt has started the slide. Again, for TJ Watt standards, that's one thing, but I think that'll be the interesting part.
I'm going to go with Buffalo wins the division, but they're the 4 seed.
Okay, yeah. I think that's out of the question.
I like your 3 teams, Houston, Denver, Cincinnati making up those top 3. Pittsburgh slides in as the 7. Maybe they draw Cincinnati for first round matchup since he maybe gets that 2 seed.
Boy, that could be a fun playoff.
All right. Appreciate John Lydic hopping in for Chris Soule. We'll have plenty more of the 814 Sports Report coming up next week.